Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Marco Cherray Show. It is Wednesday, October 1st, 2025. We have 3 months remaining of 2025, folks. Can hardly believe it. Thanks again for tuning in to today's show to hear all the relevant, groundbreaking news here in the United States and around the world. The only show where the facts are facts and hard truths always thrive. Don't forget to hit that like button, follow the show, hit that notification tab, and share with as many people as you can. But let's get ready now for the best hour that radio has to offer. Uncensored and ready to go. Let's dive right into it, shall we? Let's start off with what's happening in our government right now. Isn't that great? Our government can hardly function. Not that I really care if the government shuts down, but everyone seems to be super worried about this. I'm not. Doesn't affect me in any way. But it does affect the people that work for the government, of course. But here we go. This isn't just the news. It says Senate Republicans vote on a measure that would reopen government after failed votes led to shutdown. So now we have the Senate on Wednesday. We'll vote again on the House of Representatives continuing resolution to end the government shutdown. According to the Senate calendar, the upper chamber will vote on the continuing resolution that failed to pass the 60-vote threshold on Tuesday in a 55 to 45 split. So now we have a resolution, of course, which would have kept the government funded through November 21st, and it received support from many different Democratic senators as well. The only one that didn't vote for it on the Republican side was Senator Rand Paul. But here's the thing. Here's why Republicans have put together a continuing resolution. They feel that it's reasonable. But they're not kowtowing to the demands of the Democrats. What are the demands of the Democrats? Well, John Thune laid it out pretty clearly. Take a listen.
But we are not going to be held hostage for over $1 trillion in new spending on a continuing resolution, nor are we going to be held hostage to allow illegals to get free health care in a continuing resolution. These are things that they're demanding as part of their so-called negotiation. But
this is all for Democrats to give government money to illegal aliens, folks. That's what it is. Just plain and simple. That's what it is. There's no other way to say it. But they're trying to hold this on the Republicans. Now, remember, they are the party in opposition. They have no leadership. They hold no majority. And yet they're trying to hold the government hostage so illegal aliens can get free health care. And God knows what other services as well. Absolutely ridiculous. They're supposed to work for you, the citizen, not the illegal alien, the citizen. Now, Maxine Waters also fumbled the ball here and said the quiet part out loud. Listen to this one.
Do Democrats want to prioritize the health care of illegal aliens over a government shutdown? Because if the government does shut down, American
Excuse
employees are going to
me,
be furloughed.
stop it right there. We're not prioritizing. What we're doing is saying simply we want to keep the government open and we want to work with the Republicans and have a bipartisan agreement to keep this government open, and health care is at the top of our agenda.
But aren't Democrats demanding health care for illegal aliens?
Democrats are demanding health care for everybody.
There it is. Everybody. Everybody. Hey, you come across the border, here's some free health care. Gavin Newsom spends $250 million a year on health care for illegal aliens. Hey, it's okay. It's just the taxpayer dollars. Doesn't matter. This is why they're shutting down the government. This is what they want. They want to spend more and more of your taxpayer dollars and giving it to people that have no right to be here in the first place. That's what this whole thing's about. Do I think this will pass eventually? Of course I do. They're going to, try to stall it for as long as they can. They'll blame the Republicans. Republicans will blame the Democrats. Is it going to affect your life in any way? No. It will affect people in various departments of the government that will not be receiving a paycheck for as long as this goes on. Yep, we have Senate Majority Leader John Thune on Tuesday filed a cloture motion to set up the Wednesday vote to advance the House-passed continuation resolution, which is unlikely to pick up much more Democrat support, is what the Hill has reported. There we go. So what are Democrats going to do? Keep the government shut down? I'd have to argue with you that most of the people probably in these positions are liberals, they're Democrats, they've probably been there forever. Do the Democrats really want to give them that option? They're simply not going to get paid because they want to give more money to illegal aliens? Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there should be a reasonable spending bill right now. That's what it should be. Now, Tom Massey on the on the Republican side sided with the Democrats, saying that this is simply the same kind of bill that the Biden White House is passing. Now, again, it wouldn't shock me. We continually raise the debt ceiling. We continually spend more money than what we have. And we keep getting further and further in debt. The Republicans are just a little bit better than the Democrats on this. But giving the money to illegal aliens, a bit shady, I'd have to argue with you. Oh, by the way, Paul Craig Roberts has a great article out today. He's talking about the speech that Pete Hegseth just gave to the military, of course. And he said that it's one of the best speeches that he's ever heard, and probably the most important. And he said the same expulsion of woke excrement needs to occur in our media, of course, in our police, the medical profession, corporate executive ranks, the universities, high schools, and elementary schools. Otherwise, America cannot be made great again. Boy, is he right about this. The Democrat DEI policy, of course, which is primarily used to destroy our military, is going to go. There's no way we can sustain it. Allowing people to come in and get various surgeries for free. I won't go into detail about that, but what is this? Now, had Hegseth waited any longer, there would have been no institution base left for a real military. And again, I don't like the rah-rah that we've got to go out and, be ready for war every 10 seconds, but we should be ready for conflict. That's the point of a military. To protect the homeland. That's what we're here for. That's what we should be doing. We should be preparing for this. Now, it does worry me, though, in the sense that our boys can be sent abroad to various wars. We have many going on right now. I don't think that's going to happen, personally. But I do worry about that at times. I do. So, we have to understand something. If we have people on the move, like China, like Russia, and what have you, we should be ready for any type of engagement with these countries. That means our technology must be up to date. That means our military must be strong and sound and strong again. And one of the things he said was, we're having no more fat troops anymore. Now people can look at that and say, my God, that's so mean. Listen, we need to have the best and brightest in these positions. We need to have that. Paul Craig Roberts goes on and says, my concern is whether the assumption or pretense that we have enemies such as China and Russia, that e-containing is a cover for the neoconservative policy of American hegemony in the service of Israel. Are we building a capable war-fighting military for the defense or for our hegemony? And that's what I'm saying. We should have a strong defense. We should have a strong military. We should be a superpower. That's what we are. We should have the best and brightest and strongest and smartest, based on their merit, to be in these positions. But we shouldn't have people in there just to simply get a sex change for free. Or, again, putting females in these positions of which they really can't do some of the things that the men can do. And again, I'm not trying to put down women who serve. I'm just saying there are certain things men can do based on strength, based on, the physicality of certain things they have to do. And the military has actually changed some of these standards to allow women to meet these standards. So that's not a good thing. And again, do you want someone who's struggling with, mental illness or something of the sort to be there watching your back? That's what we have to also consider in a lot of these situations. So, in other words, what Secretary of Now War, Pete Hegseth, said is true, but is it being done for the right reason, is what Paul Craig Roberts asks. Because neither China nor Russia express any type of hostility towards us. Russia has even asked to join NATO, which I doubt would ever happen, but nonetheless, I mean, look at all the other countries that are joining. Russia has been ignoring our provocations and seeking a mutual security agreement, not war. And again, I told you to be ready. I told you to be ready for these false flags, which is what they're doing right now. Because they're trying to bring us into a war with Russia. And a war that we will not win. I'll just put it to you that way. That's just plain truth. Our technology cannot match their technology as far as missiles and drones. They're very much more advanced. The hypersonic missiles are very advanced. The Poseidon missiles they have on their submarines are extremely advanced. And the only thing that we would go toe-to-toe with them is nuclear weapons. And I don't think we want to be involved in a nuclear war with Russia. Just wanted to share that with you. China just wants to do business. I agree with Paul Craig Roberts here. There are extremists in the CCP, though, that would love to take over America. They've talked about this. There have been speeches made about this. That doesn't mean we should look at them with hostility, but we should always be ready based on the intelligence that we get. That there are Chinese that would love to take over the United States. They want to call it New China. That was one of the developments I've learned about years ago. So just don't, roll over. That's not what I'm saying here. But what I'm saying here is open up trade, diplomacy, work with other diplomats, always be ready for a conflict, always be ready to defend the homeland. That means having submarines, monitoring our oceans. That means having ships ready, placed in strategic positions to defend the homeland. Having the right technology, again, to defend the homeland. Have the brightest people out there that can operate and handle this weaponry and, of course, execute with proficiency. That's what we want. We just want a safe, secure country, folks. We want a secure border, both in the north and the south. That's what we want. We don't want another war. We don't need wars. No one is provoking us right now. But yes, let's focus on, again, building the military up, beefing it up, getting our infantry nice and strong. But we don't need another on-boots ground war. We don't need that. And again, neither adversary is preaching or planning a war against us. That's what Paul Craig Roberts says. I tend to agree. That doesn't mean we just ignore them. We should always look at what their politicians are saying, what they're speaking about, what they're doing. Of course, that's important as well. You got to be ready for anything. We're the number one superpower in the world. You got to be ready for anything. But number one, you've got to secure the borders. Trump is doing a good job of securing the borders. It's one of the things that I think he's doing a very good job with is, again, border security right now. We got to work on our deportations nonetheless, but we're starting off in the right direction. But nuclear weapons are an extreme danger to all life. I don't think I need to continue to tell you that. No matter how prepared a military is. A war-ready military needs to be accompanied with a war-averse foreign policy. That's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. And by the way, we bombed Iran. We didn't need to do that. We don't need to provoke other nations. We simply don't. So again, I thought this was an interesting article. I like the idea behind Hegseth in the terms of being a leader for, again, building up a strong military. I don't always agree on every stance he has, of course. But I think he's slowly but surely coming into his position here. Not that I agree with him on everything that he says, but we need a strong person in charge of our military, and he is the face of that. So hopefully, again, we can build this up. Again, what did Teddy Roosevelt say? Speak softly and carry a big stick. That's what we need right now. We don't need to provoke people. We don't need to provoke other nations. But we do need a strong military in this day and age. All right. So, one of the things that also has interested me today is this article here in Slate News. By the way, I like Slate News a lot. They've got great articles, and I implore everyone to go and read them. This one's interesting to me because it relates to us as a nation, too, our neighbors to the north. Canada's birth rate plunges to the lowest level in history. Not good, folks. Not good for our neighbors to the north. So now Canada is now sliding deeper into this population crisis as a new government data confirms that the birth rate has now collapsed to the lowest level in the nation's history for the second year in a row. So now, according to statistics and Canada's 2024 birth rates and stillbirths report, that the country's official fertility rate is now just 1.25 children per woman. And the figure is down from 1.26 in 2023. So now the number is far below the replacement rate of 2.1, which is needed for any nation to sustain the existing demographics. So that means you have to have 3 kids, folks. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You have to have 3 kids, 3 to 4 kids. That'd be perfect. That sustains the existing demographic as what it is for that generation. So we think about these things. We think of what's happening now in the country. We see the shift, again, away from motherhood, of course. But the findings are devastating and reveal that 9 of Canada's 10 provinces and all 3 territories are reporting a record low fertility. British Columbia, on the western coast, sits at a catastrophic 1.02, a figure barely above extinction levels. Even Ontario, Canada's most populous province, is just at 1.21. Now, meanwhile, the average age of childbearing age, I should say, has climbed to 31.8 years of life, the oldest in Canadian history. Back in 1976, just to juxtapose that, the average was 26.7, was when motherhood would begin. So again, we're seeing this. We're seeing a lot of this in the United States as well. Numbers are a bit more alarming than ours. They only had 368,928 babies born in 2024. Canada once boasted the robust fertility rate of 3.94 children per woman in 1959. What happened, folks? That's what we have to ask ourselves. What happened? What is happening? Well, think about this. Let's all think for a second. What happened in the 1960s? We had a counter-revolution, right? We had a cultural revolution. We had a women's lib. We had a sexual liberation. And we had, civil rights. We had all these things. We had the drug revolution. We had all these things happening, right? We had hippies, all this nonsense. The culture changed. There was a big culture shock in the 1960s. There were lots of protests, lots of things happening. The country was extraordinarily liberal, by the way, under LBJ. But the mindset of the American citizen changed drastically. It went from wanting to be a mother, married with children, to now let's get women into the workforce. Now, again, if you're working 8 hours a day and then going home and taking care of children, that's a big thing. Versus if you're staying home. So what happened in the 60s? Women started going to work much more than in the previous generations. Right? Because they're told that's what women needed to do. They needed to be equal to men. Okay. Anyways. So you're told this. Women start going to work. They start having less children. One other thing happened, though. And most people won't talk to you about this, but one other thing happened. What was that? Well, we have more people going to work now. That means there are more transactions. There are more people in the workforce now. So in economics, when you have more transactions, you have what happened? You have the cost of goods starting to go up. Yeah. And what happened in the 1970s in America, folks? We saw the inflation rate skyrocketing. There were other issues for that too. But when you have more people in the workforce, you have more transactions. More transactions, the higher the inflation is going to be. The price of those goods are going to start to increase. It is in I think it's called the law of exchange, if I'm not mistaken, in economics. That's what it is. But they track, the government does, how many transactions are being made. And now you have more people vying for a job now. You have women coming into the workforce. So you're starting to see, starting in the mid to late 1960s, more women jump into the workforce. And as a result of that, you have the mother away from the child, which is not a good thing. But you have people having less kids. That's another thing. You have more two-family homes. I'm sorry, two-children family homes versus the 3, the 4, moving up that way. I mean, if you look at, again, I can look at my families, my grandparents all had many, many siblings. A few of them none of them actually had 2. Or less than that. Everyone had lots and lots of kids. But that doesn't happen anymore. We could thank inflation for that. We could thank the economy for that in many regards. The cost of home, all that. All these things are starting to change. Things are getting less and less affordable. Now versus 1959 when things were much, much more affordable. We had a great economy in America in the 1950s. We really did. In fact, that was the kind of like the model for everything. And again, you had father go to work, the mother stayed at home with the children. She kept the home in line, kept the home in order. People were more religious, so more people are praying and going to church. All that changes in the 1960s. Everything starts its downfall in the 1960s, which is why I've asked you many times, is it time that we have a counter-revolution to the counter-revolution? And I think Charlie Kirk was kind of on spot with that. He was kind of testing that. He said, no. Women don't need to go to work. They need to be with a man that will provide, that wants to have children with them, to love the children. He was onto something. You shouldn't be out just doing drugs all weekend, drinking copious amounts of alcohol, having unplanned sex and with random people. He was, again, shouting these Christian values at people. Again, not forcing it on anyone, but he's sharing these ideas with everyone. Telling people to have a purpose in life. They're not hearing any of this in the classroom. And people were gravitating towards that. They're saying, wait, well, maybe I should do this. And now what are you seeing now after his death is what you're seeing lots of more people coming back into the church. Mostly men, by the way, but more people coming to the church that are young. And again, that's just part of Charlie's legacy. He was that voice for the counter-revolution. He was saying, no, you don't have to do all this. You don't have to go spend, 8 years in school just to have a good job. You don't need that. He was living proof of that. Now, to talk about the U.S., just to bring it into some context, the general fertility rate in America is also alarming. We have 1.786 births per woman. Again, it should be 2.1. Not a good thing. Now it's indicating, of course, a slight increase from 2023. So we're kind of going back into that. We're seeing, again, women in America also starting to have children later. But we need to get, if you're going to be married and you're going to have kids, you should have 3 children. That's what keeps the existing demographic the way it is. What we've seen in America, though, and again, since 1965, what have we seen? We've seen the Immigration Reform Act of 1965, bringing people in from various different countries. We moved away from really 40-ish years of limited immigration, only from Europe, to now the entire world. And in that time, we've had the welfare state. We've had all this government spending, all this stuff, all this nonsense. We had the Vietnam War, which, again, people were protesting that as well. But we've got to get our basics back. We've got to come back and return to our Christian values. That's what it has to come down to. And that would be important if we did that. But America's, we're seeing the same thing in Europe, by the way. We're not reaching that 2.1. We've got to start getting back to our basics, folks. And again, you're not going to find it in the entertainment. You're not going to find it on the news media, except for shows like mine that encourage that, to talk about it. But we've got to get back to our basics. That's what it's got to come down to. We can turn this around. We can. It's possible. But again, we're seeing delayed childbearing. We're seeing the way people plan when they have children. We've got to get back to our basics. Mother and father in the home, 3 children, able to buy a home. And again, what's the Democrat position? Well, we need to give free health care to people. We need to give free housing to people, free food, snap this, snap that, give them this, give them that. We'll now give driver's license with no names on it, like in New York and California, which makes me sick to my stomach. I just saw that article just yesterday. Can't even believe it. No name on a driver's license. Yeah, these people can operate vehicles. They're here illegally. These schmucks in these states have given them driver's license. You can't make this stuff up. And again, they tell you, well, we're overpopulated. We're overpopulated because you're bringing in millions of people every year. That's the reason why. And then, but in the end, that affects you. That affects the way the economy works in the nation. All this government spending now that has to, again, be allocated towards helping people that can't get jobs. You have people coming in, taking jobs, and again, undercutting the price of that. That's why I say the Trump administration has done great with the border, but they've got to get these deportations up. They got to do it in a legal, lawful way, of course. But you had 20 million illegals just under Joe Biden. Then again, I said at the very least, we had at least 20 to 25 million, at least, in the nation before that took place. Then you got to figure the 55 million illegal visa holders that have overstayed their visas that are here. So we've got a lot of people that don't belong here. And everyone's going, oh my God, it's going to upset. No, it'll get things back on track if we're a nation of citizens. It will. Now, the housing market might crash, but houses will become much more affordable when you have much less people vying for now more houses and the ability now to build more houses. It'll get things on the right track. Believe me, folks, it will. And again, to exploit people here and bring them here illegally and then treat them like this, again, that's, again, the plan of the Democrats. They don't care that they make them work for less. They don't give a damn about these people. They always pretend they care, but they don't. They don't. And by the way, Hillary Clinton, this article, also in Slay. Hillary Clinton hit with backlash for attacking white men of a certain religion on MS. Nobody cares. Yep, she went on with moron Joe Scarborough and the wife. Look at this. I'll play this for you. Just disgusting, this woman. Absolutely disgusting. And of course, she goes on this show. Of all shows, she goes on this show to foment hatred of white men.
We haven't gotten to the more perfect union, and we fought a civil war over part of it. Mm-hmm. And people have been protesting, for hundreds of years that, things were not as they should be, given our ideals and how we should be moving toward them. So I think that's what makes us so special as a country. And the idea that you could turn the clock back and try to recreate a world that never was, dominated by, let's say it, white men of a certain persuasion, a certain religion, a certain point of view, a certain ideology, is just doing such damage to what we should be aiming for. And we were on the path toward that. I mean, imperfectly, lots of, bumps along the way, but I agree with you, we were on the right trajectory.
Okay. First things first, she doesn't even say anything. 52 seconds of nothing. What is she even talking about here? That's what I want to know. Men of a certain religion that have the same ideology, that have the same certain viewpoint. Of what? That we need to protect our nation? That's a nation of Christianity? That's based in Christian values? What the hell is she talking about? Multiculturalism? I don't even know. What was that reference to the Civil War? We fought a war over this. What the hell does that mean? What do you mean we fought a war over this? What is this? What is she even talking about? And by the way, Hillary, what was your husband? He's a white man of a certain religion, wasn't he? God knows what his values are, but he was a man, a white man of certain values that led the nation. Again, his outlook back in the 1990s was probably no more different than some Republicans today on many of these issues. So what are you trying to say, Hillary? Is old Billy part of the problem too? Now she's experiencing some kind of backlash from this. Oh, by the way, she's talking about, obviously, in the Civil War, she's talking about, obviously, slavery. And so we fought a war over this. Again, she doesn't really allude to what she's talking about. But she's trying to talk about white men, injustice, black versus white versus black. She has no idea that the Civil War wasn't even fought over slavery. Although that was the end result of the war. The slaves were freed. And we had amendments to our Constitution on this. But the Civil War, ladies and gentlemen, in America, was fought over the economy. It was fought over taxation. Go look up the Morrill Tariff, if you don't believe me. In fact, the North didn't even care originally that the South was seceding from the Union. They didn't give a damn. They were like, all right, whatever. But then they realized, wait a minute. We now have the Confederate States of America. They're going to have free and open ports, free trading zones. We have tariffs on ours in the North. That's going to undercut everything coming into the North. They're going to want to do business with the South more. The South who refused to pay these exorbitant tariffs and taxation that Lincoln was going to be imposing on them. So what did they do? They seceded from the Union. That's what happened. That was what it was all about, folks. All about. But they make it again, slavery issue. This is all they can review. They can go back to, again, fomenting hatred. That's what it is. Now, she got some backlash for this, and rightfully so, because, again, she has no idea what she's talking about. It says here that on Fox News, they said that she seems to be angry that the majority of Americans rejected the trajectory that the left had been on. Think about the Obama years, right? What was happening in the Obama years? It was, again, the push, very far push to the left, both culturally, economically, and, again, it's not just the white men of a particular persuasion. What does she mean by that? Straight Christian men? What is she talking about? These Democrats, they never explain themselves. They just run their mouths. Men of a certain persuasion and a certain religion. It's meaningless. Meaningless. We all know what she was talking about. Yep, there we go. Hillary Clinton making a fool of herself. Can you imagine if she was president, by the way? Now, what she's also, I think, alluding to a little bit, when she says we're on the right trajectory, she meant she was the next person to come in to put the final nail in the coffin. But she lost, and that was unexpected. And, of course, she does the Steele dossier, pays for that. She's allowed to destroy her 33,000 emails of no consequence whatsoever. Thank you, Dim Comey, for that one. She was supposed to be where Donald Trump and Joe Biden were. She was supposed to be the final nail in the coffin for America. But people rejected her. She wasn't very popular. I think mothers honestly saw what she would have done to their sons. I do believe that. I think that's why you saw women coming out for Trump back in 2016. But here we are. Well, then we had Joe Biden, and you look at how disgusting Joe Biden's tenure was. Open borders, men and women's sports, a failing economy. We had violence in our cities and our streets. Diplomacy? Where was that? Anywhere? Did anyone even listen to Joe Biden? Executive order after executive order. It was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And not to mention the draconian lockdowns, the push by the government to coerce people into taking a vaccine that's killing 5,000 Americans per week. Yep, you can take that to the bank with you, too. Cash that check. Yep, there we go. So she doesn't like... Listen, Hillary Clinton does not like masculinity. She doesn't like men in charge. She doesn't like the nation. And she wants to see it destroyed. It's as simple as that. That's what it is. That's what she's running her mouth about. You had Moron Joe and Mika Brzezinski, whose father, Zygmunt, set up the Trilateral Commission, right? Globalism. And, of course, Willie Geist sitting there like he's sitting on something wrong. Yeah. They have nothing to say to this. White men of a certain, what did she say again? White men of a certain, she doesn't even finish it. Religion. Oh, yeah, religion. Certain religion. That pesky religion, Christianity, that we on the left do not like at all. Didn't say one damn word about the Christians in the Congo getting killed by jihadist Muslim groups. That's, that's fine. Doesn't matter. This is what they want. That's why they're ushering in people from the third world. That's why they're ushering in people of different religions. Go look at the Muslim populations in New York City, parts of Texas, Minneapolis for sure. They want this to be a powder keg. And she would have been the Pied Piper leading it all. Believe you me. She would have definitely loved that, by the way. Yep. We don't have a toxic masculinity problem. We have a problem with estrogen in this country. Really. That's what it comes down to. Estrogen. That's why I can get your T levels up, folks. Stay away from soy, all this other nonsense. Too much sugar, refined carbs. Exercise. They don't want you to do that, of course. They don't want you to be a man and lead. And again, this is all goes back to the 1960s. This is all these pushes. White men this, white men that. Look at the white man. We need to change the demographics of the country. That's what it was all by design, folks. And this is all by design again with this COVID shot to destroy infertility indefinitely in the country. Yep, there it is in a nutshell. All right there in front of your eyes. All right, so let's go on to something a little bit more positive. Not that this is positive, but nonetheless. Israel is now paying influencers $7,000 per post. My God, you know what? I might have to cancel doing this show and, sign up for this. I think that's very lucrative. A post? I put on a couple posts a day. My God, I can be making bank here. Imagine that. Make, four posts, reel in about 30 grand a day. I mean, that's good. You're going to be making tens of millions of dollars a year doing this if you're consistent with it. My God. It says Netanyahu referred to this week to a community pushing out preferred messaging in the United States media, and they're making a very nicely some from this. $7,000 a tweet or a message rather. That's fantastic. I'm gonna have to get in on this. I got to be honest with you, folks. I mean, does that be positive, or it could be anything about? Obviously, there's a caveat to this. They're gonna want you to back the Israel initiative. But in a meeting dedicated to harnessing pro-Israel media energy on Friday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu alluded to a cohort of Israel's influencers. We have to fight back. How do we fight back? Our influencers, I think you should also talk to them if you have a chance. To that community, they are very important. Yep. And being paid for by Israel to post on social media is also very lucrative. Likely being paid somewhere around $7,000 per post on social media, such as TikTok, which is now owned by Israel, and of course Instagram. Again, Mark Zuckerberg owns it, owns Meta, owns Facebook. Right? There you go. They own it all. And again, they'll push out their algorithms. Again, you have Larry Ellison of Oracle in charge of all this, collecting data, doing all this. And again, I'm starting to see people post on certain social media now. They're posting what's being said now when they write something on TikTok now that, the government doesn't agree with. And again, it's something that's calling out the government or Israel or whatever it is. They're now starting to get those messages that, you need to do this. You're getting a warning right now. Free speech has never been free, folks. That's what it looks like to me. Bridges Partners, a firm working for Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, sent a series of invoices for influencer campaign to have his media group in Germany, an international media group working for Israel. The invoices detailed a sum of $900,000 starting in June and slated to end in November for a cohort of 14 to 18 influencers to create content. Oh, I'm sure it's going to be so partisan and honest, of course, right? I wouldn't bet on it, by the way. The document, which is filed under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, notes that the funding is for both payments for influencers and production, but it does not provide a breakdown between the two. When taking into account the administration production costs through September 16th, legal fees, banking fees, marketing fees, and other projects, services, noted in a separate document that this leaves an estimated of $552,946 for influencers between June and September of this year. Now, the firm estimated that the cohort was expected to produce anywhere from 75 to 90 posts in that time. Now, doing the math, that would equal or come out to somewhere around just over $6,000 on the low end and just over $7,000 on the high end. Yep, there it all is. So I want to know: did all these influencers register under FARA? Because again, if they're putting content on the behalf of another foreign nation in U.S. media, we should know about this. And again, the government should know about this as well. But now they're just saying that this Havas group did, I believe, is what I'm understanding from this. Yep, they put out this document. The document was filed under FARA. I want to know who these 14, 18 influencers are. We should know who they are. This is very important to us. We should know who's controlling our media. And again, I have no doubt anybody in that room is obviously going to be posting pro-Israeli content. Or at least sway the narrative in certain positions. Anyways, here was part of the meeting with Netanyahu. The first person speaking here is a woman named Deborah Leah, is what her name is on social media.
So something I would like to raise, which was actually my first published paper, was how you and the Likud party are cut from the same ideological cloth as Trump and the GOP in America. And so specifically with Charlie Kirk's assassination, who was a big mentor of mine, who's my first mentor in the space, evangelicals, from all my research, evangelicals are the reason that Israel has been supported in public sphere outside of just Jews. So with Charlie's assassination and with the kind of trajectory that we see with like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, I guess I'm curious about what's another game plan if we lose evangelical support for the state of Israel. What's our backup plan to be strong, like outside of the diaspora?
Christian influencers. Okay, you said you talked about the woke right, and you said I call it the woke Reich. That's a brilliant observation. The woke right, because these people, you know, they're not any different from the woke left. I mean, they're insane. They're loonies. But they're actually meeting on some of the things. And what we have to do is we have to secure that part of the base of our support in the United States. That is being challenged systematically. A lot of this is done with money. Money of NGOs, vast. Money of governments, vaster. Okay? We have to fight back. How do we fight back? Our influencers. I think you should also talk to them if you have a chance. To that community, they're very important. And secondly, we're going to have to use the tools of battle. You know, the weapons change over time. You can't fight today with swords. That doesn't work very well. Okay, and you can't fight with cavalry. That doesn't work very well. And you have these new things, you know, like drones, things like that. I won't get into that. But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are the social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is followers. TikTok. TikTok. Number one. And I hope it goes through because it can be consequential. And the other one, what's the other one that's most important? X. That's very good. And, you know, so we have to talk to Elon. He's not an enemy. He's a friend. We should talk to him. Now, if we can get those two things, we get a lot. And I could go on other things, but that's not the point right now. We have to fight the fight, okay? To give direction to the Jewish people, and give directive to our non-Jewish friends or those who could be our Jewish our friends. Are we going to succeed with everyone? No. Will there be a strong counterpoint? Yeah.
So there you have it. And notice what she said in the beginning. She said, what can we do? As if she's linking herself to what Netanyahu's position is. Now, what can I do as a journalist? But what can we do? See the collective there? So you have somebody now being paid off by the Israeli government through some media corporation, and they're now going to be producing content that puts out a different narrative about Israel in this Gaza war. That's what it comes down to. They don't want you to see what's happening inside Gaza. They don't want you to see any of the bombings or the people that are getting massacred or any of the other information that's being put out there. They don't want you to see it because that looks bad. And it does. It's horrific what's happening. That's why I talk about it with you on the show. So you know about this. Because you're not hearing it anywhere in the mainstream media. Nobody's talking about this. But now their goal is to, again, change your perspective. Anyone who's saying anything like this is a genocide or quoting the leadership of the Likud party, they don't want that. They don't want you to know what they're doing. That's why social media is such a positive thing. Because you actually have people that catch these things, they post them, and they blow up, and they get bigger. You're like, wow, he really said that. Huh, this is happening. I didn't know this was happening. You said this is not happening. Again, when you get people on the ground in these areas, they record, they come back, they tell you, they share with you. This should be the information you get. Sometimes you got to go directly to the source, especially nowadays. But the answer, he said, money, influencers, TikTok, and drones. I don't understand what that was all about, but this is what he says. To a group of people who are now going to be his spokespeople for this war in Gaza right now. So keep your eye on who's giving you content, understand whom they are. If it's coming from these proud, quote-unquote, Zionists, you might want to rethink your step there. And understand, too, there's a difference between Jews and Zionists, just so we're clear on all that. One thing I want to say, too, about this whole thing with Israel. Obviously, we know Netanyahu was here on Monday, speaking with Trump about this 21-point plan for what's happening in Gaza and these peace proposals. The Times of India reported just the other day, it says here that the Gaza peace proposal did Netanyahu move away from Trump's plan, what he said on Palestinian statehood. So was the plan that was given out, and by the way, I've heard from a couple of people now, they're saying that the plan was agreed upon with the Arab nations, I think Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, Pakistan, Jordan, all those nations, was different than the one that was proposed later on. So now we don't even know if this is the exact same plan that was initially agreed upon between, again, the Muslim countries and what Israel and President Trump said that they've come to this agreement on. Because that was what we heard on Monday, right before Netanyahu left. But here we go. Hours after praising President Trump and this 20-point peace plan, Netanyahu rejected any suggestion in the agreement that paves a way towards a Palestinian state. Now, speaking in a video from Washington following his White House meeting, by the way, he didn't take anything from the press, by the way, if you notice that, the Israeli leader presented a proposal as a breakthrough, of course, what appeared to misrepresent parts of it. But here's the thing. He denied any type of Palestinian statehood, which I imagine the Palestinians would want to get, especially after all this took place. They don't want to be lorded over by another country. Look how that's going for them. When you have 500,000 people missing or dead. And by the way, yesterday I noticed I said I misspoke in the very beginning. I don't know if I corrected it in yesterday's show, but I said 1,000 confirmed dead Palestinians. It's actually 100,000 Palestinians confirmed dead. I think I misspoke a little bit, so I wanted to correct myself and set the record straight there. But he was asked, again, he's speaking in Hebrew here, he said he was asked in a video about whether The agreement meant that he had accepted the establishment of a Palestinian state. And he said, absolutely not. It's not written in the agreement. We would oppose strongly a Palestinian state. Trump also agreed it would be a massive prize for terror, is what was said. But now the plan, again, the one that was published by the White House, leaves it open for the pathway for a Palestinian self-determined statehood to occur. Again, rule over themselves. Once Gaza's redeveloped, again, I have big questions about this whole redevelopment thing too. Who's going to come in and buy all this land and bring the money in and develop? I mean, the whole area is in ruins. I think 85% of it is all just destroyed, basically. Rubble upon rubble. Who's going to come in and fix all this? Remember I said yesterday, who's coming in? BlackRock, probably. I think Larry Fink. Who's going to come in and buy all this? And are people going to come in and buy the land and rent it out to the Palestinians? Who is going to own this land? Remember Trump said originally he wanted it to become a Riviera in the Middle East. So there's obviously people that have their eyes set on this land. They want to develop it. They want to control it. And again, if they buy the land, because think about it, all the banks in Palestine are gone. Who's going to be able to prove, hey, I own this piece of land? You have no proof of this. Where is it? It's gone. I'm coming in now to buy the land. And that's how it's going to work. These big billionaires, they're going to come in, buy the land, and they'll simply rent it out to people, if they even allow that. So that's just my thought on this. Again, it's going to take a long time, but this redevelopment is going to either push people out or control them every step of the way from here on out. So that's a big thing. Now, if Netanyahu goes back on this plan in the Middle East, he said that President Trump supports us if Hamas does not accept the terms of the ceasefire. That means the bombing continues on. As I said, prepare for more war here. And I hate to be right here, of course, but the AP came out just today and says that Israel orders Palestinians to leave Gaza City, saying all those who stay will be considered militants. See how this works? I mean, they already call them animals and whatnot, but now they're calling them militants. So anyone that stays behind, you're a militant. It's fine if I kill you. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. It's supposed to be a peace proposal, and now they're dropping leaflets telling everyone to get the hell out. Otherwise, we're going to kill you. So Israel's defense minister on Wednesday ordered all remaining Palestinians to leave Gaza City, saying it was their last opportunity, and that anyone who stayed would be considered a militant supporter and face the full force of Israel's latest offense. At least 16 Palestinians were killed across the territory, according to local hospitals. As Hamas weighed a new proposal from President Donald Trump aimed at ending the war and returning the remaining captives taken in Hamas on October 7, 2023's attack that triggered it all. About 400,000 Palestinians have fled the famine-stricken Gaza City since Israel launched a major offensive last month aimed at reoccupying it, but hundreds of thousands remain. Many because they simply can't move, they're too weak to move, to make this journey to the tent camps to the south. Yep, Israel Katz said on X, by the way. Again, I'm reading you exactly what these people are saying. This is how they talk about people. So if you're a child inside Gaza City now, you're a militant? And again, we know how their drone technology works. Anything they want to target, they can easily wire it that way and just let it go. This is the last opportunity for Gaza citizens who wish to do so to move south and leave Hamas's terrorists isolated in Gaza City. How do they know where they are? How do they know where they are? They have no idea where they are. Those who remain in Gaza will be considered terrorists and terror supporters. So you know what that means. It means maul right over them. Doesn't matter. Kill everybody inside. That's what it's going to come down to. And again, it's a perfect moment. They've just taken over TikTok. They've got their ducks in a row as far as these influencers. They're going to push out this propaganda. And it's going to be horrible for the Palestinian people. The people that had nothing to do with October 7th, by the way. Don't misunderstand me. I condemn everything that Hamas did on October 7th, 2023. I even said Israel has a right to defend itself. This is not self-defense. This is about control. This is murdering innocent people intentionally. This is dehumanizing people. Labeling everyone a combatant, labeling everyone as a terror supporter. If they remain in Gaza City? What kind of nonsense is this? And again, we know 83% of the people that have been killed so far, as estimated, that have been killed in this 100,000, have been innocent civilians. They have nothing to do with this whole terror attack on October 7th. So there's no justification for this. And by the way, the idiots that come out there and say, well, it's war, it's collateral damage, it happens. This is intentional. This is absolutely intentional here. There's nothing that validates killing innocent men, women, and children, by the way. And over half of Gaza is children under the age of 17 and younger. So I don't buy this crap. It's a bunch of nonsense. It's absolutely disgusting to me to see this. Absolutely disgusting. I can't take it. I almost can't take it anymore. So ridiculous. By the way, this one article, too, I have, we're short on time here. I want to move on here. It's in the Gateway Pundit, and it talks about a young girl, 22 years old, named Logan Federico, was murdered by a career criminal in South Carolina. It says in May, Logan Federico, a college student from Waxhaw, North Carolina, was spending the weekend at a rental home with friends in South Carolina when she was senselessly murdered, by a career criminal. By the way, this guy had like 39 arrests, 25 felonies. Why is he on the streets? The father made a brilliant speech. I'm not going to play it for you. You can find it here in this article. But he basically says, hey, you failed us. There's no reason this should happen. This 30-year-old Alexander Dickey broke into the Columbia home, entered Logan Federico's room, and executed her while she was on her knees begging for her life. Dickey then fled the scene in a stolen vehicle. Another crime. There we go. Allegedly using his stolen credit cards. Another fine. There you go. Taken from the nearby home. Police pursued Dickey after he fled into the woods. He reportedly broke into another home and set it on fire before the police took him into custody in a standoff in Gaston. Why are we letting this human trash be on the streets? By the way, this is a black man killing a young white woman. Is this going to be a hate crime? We going to hear anything about this in the mainstream media? Is anyone upset about this? 25 different felonies. God knows if these are even a part of those 25. This shouldn't be happening, folks, in America. We shouldn't have people on the streets that behave like this or act like this. These people should never see the light of day again. And the fact that they released this guy, he's only in jail for like a short period of time, too. I don't even understand this. Should have never been out on the streets in the first place. But this is the left. These are these judges. These are these prosecutors. They let these people out. They don't care. They release them into the community, and of course, they kill innocent people. This did not have to happen at all. And unfortunately, this young woman who wanted to be a teacher, as what her father said in the speech, ended up losing her life over this piece of human debris that should have never been out on the streets in the first place. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this show today. I know we went through a lot of topics, but I hope you learned a lot from the show, and you'll share it with some friends as well. So I appreciate you when you do that. Folks, keep your home in order. Make sure you are obviously keeping your home secure. Make sure you're storing up food, water, ammo, money, anything you need to be self-sufficient. Medication, fuel, anything. Because we never know what's going to happen right now in this economy. Folks, again, please make sure you're doing well. Stay blessed. And I'll see you tomorrow on the next Marco Dre Show. Until then, be good. Stay busy. God bless each and every one of you. Take care.